Salufalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suiswiki. Coming up.
So I wore this in remembrance of our late principal, Milea Sam.
The rain's not stopping the vibes at Polyfest. Also, BenarNews agency has paused operations and
the bulk of the services are really only available on the main island of Funafuti.
Tuvalu receives a brand new vessel. Rain and clouds did not dampen the spirits of Polyfest attendees as performers and festival goers alike flocked to the Manukau Sports Bowl for another vibrant day of culture, colour and celebration. RNZ Pacific spoke with some of the attendees about the meaning and significance behind their cultural attire. Coco Lance reports.
The crowds were buzzing and remained in good spirits for day 2 of Polyfest, despite the downpour. Each year, Polyfest is a sensory feast with delicious food, lively performances and authentic cultural attires. At Polyfest today, I asked people about their traditional ensembles and what it means to them. Fala Junior Anamane, representing Mangere College, said that while he performed on the Māori stage, his Samoan culture was still present.
I actually performed with kapa haka today, but I did wear my ulafala, which is traditionally worn by orators of the Samoan culture. I wore this in remembrance of our late principal, Milea Sam, who is a woman of Samoan descent, and I wore it during our waiata, which was a tribute to her.
Shani Walker spoke about the importance of the moko kowai, which she graced on the Māori stage.
I have a moko kowai on my face, obviously, and he has a mataora, which is a male's version of a moko kowai. A moko kowai signifies, I guess, a woman's role in her community and how much she gives. It's important because it's about the, outcome for the next generation. It's a big part in our culture.
For 50 years, Polyfest has provided a platform to celebrate the diverse Polynesian cultures of Aotearoa, highlighting the richness of their traditions and the beauty of their cultural attire. Over the years, the event has expanded to embrace communities beyond the Pacific, fostering greater inclusivity. Indian performer Nanditha Asha shared that her anakale, a traditional Indian garment, is an intergenerational piece of clothing.
I guess you could say these would be more casual in India. If you're walking on the streets, you could see many people wearing these. But then there are more traditional ones where it's made out of silk. And it's not it has thicker material and stuff. So yeah, it's been passed down many generations. So our grandmothers have it, our great-grandmothers have it. Mm-hmm. It's been a part of our culture for a long time.
Aonia Sham took the stage at the Samoan speech competition, proudly representing Auckland Girls Grammar in a blue puletasi. For her, wearing the puletasi is more than just a reflection of her heritage.
I'm here to represent my culture because for other people that wants to learn my culture, they should really know what our traditions are, and that when they're going into it and learning about our ngangana fa Samoa, they should know about what kind of things we do in our culture and what things that we also give out to the people.
As the second day of Polyfest comes to an end, festival goers continue forward with high spirits and excitement. On Friday, more performers will take both the dance and speech stages before they head into the final day on Saturday, where each stage will hold their own prize giving.
BenarNews agency have announced that they are pausing operations due to matters beyond its control. Affiliated with Radio Free Asia, BenarNews reports in 5 languages. In addition, the news service stated on their website that they've stopped updating its platforms because the US administration has withheld their funding, promising to resume publishing once funding has been restored. I spoke with Australian journalist Jemima Garrett, who's covered the Pacific for nearly 40 years. I began by asking what was her reaction to the agency's announcement.
Well, look, I think it's very sad. They set up about a year ago. It's a rather weird name for an excellent news service funded by the US government, similar to RNZ Pacific and I guess the ABC service. They've really brought something fresh to journalism in the region. They've been very high quality. They've covered stories that aren't being covered by other media outlets. And really in these troubled times, the more voices we have in the region, the better.
You said that they've come out with some fresh stories in the past. Off the top of your head, what were some of the stories from BenarNews that you felt impacted the Pacific region?
Well, look, one of the ones that struck me was the fact that they had someone in Jamaica at the Seabed Authority meeting, because, of course, the Pacific, whether you're an environmentalist or whether you're in favour of seabed mining, is leading the world in seabed mining. And the change of head at the Seabed Authority was very important because it tipped the forces, I guess, more in favour of the environmentalists. But whatever decision the Seabed Authority makes, it's very important to the Pacific. So good for people in the Pacific to know what's going on. But they've also covered heaps of other issues that don't get much coverage. I mean, one would be West Papua and the plight of people there. Obviously, Pacific media organisations try to cover West Papua, but it's just very difficult with the conditions.
And in terms of the media landscape, what does a void like this leave?
Well, look, I think, as I said, we're seeing so much geopolitics coming into the region and causing problems, and so much misinformation coming into the region and causing problems. So the loss of any high-quality voice is a tragedy. It was providing also career paths for some of the best journalists in the region. On the other hand, of course, we still have excellent regional media such as Islands Business, which provides high-quality journalism. We've got Radio New Zealand International. We've got all the national media organisations. I guess we as a media industry have to pick up the slack. The problem is that everyone is facing a lack of resources, and that's why having a new service like that in the region was really great to see, because it was just more heft for accurate, fact-checked, impartial information.
You've pointed out other media organisations in the Pacific region. I'm just wondering, should we be worried?
Well, if you look at, in fact, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation has just been involved with the State of the Media report, which looks at every single country in the region. It was led by Priestley Habru from the Solomon Islands, and that showed that financial viability is the biggest question for media in the Pacific. The same with the Pacific Freedom Forum's Media Freedom Report. Financial viability makes you vulnerable to funders. So, yes, there's a really big issue as Facebook eats the media's lunch in terms of advertising revenue. All media organisations are finding it harder and harder to pay their staff. So there's a big issue, and the media needs all the help it can get, really.
The chief executive of a deep-sea mining company has written a scathing letter addressing the International Seabed Authority, or ISA. The authority, established under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, is charged with coming up with deep-sea mining rules in international waters. But Canadian firm The Metals Company is attempting to bypass it by applying to the Trump administration to mine through its US subsidiary. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
The Metals Company is looking to get a permit to mine in international waters under existing US legislation. ISA Secretary-General Letitia Cavallo says she is deeply concerned by the move, and it undermines the fundamental principles of multilateralism. The company's CEO, Gerard Barron, has responded in a scathing letter saying the ISA is being influenced by a faction of states allied with environmental NGOs. An international lawyer with the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition, Duncan Curry, says if the US supports the company, it could bring about chaos in the high seas.
Does leave the way open, or implicitly leaves the way open for other countries and other companies to be doing the same thing, which would amount to a free-for-all on seabed mining, for one thing, which I think nobody wants, but also would bring about the kind of instability and chaos within the UN law of the sea that I talked about.
Mr. Curry says he expects there will be a considerable amount of pushback to the metals company's proposal from the US State Department.
As soon as you start messing around with the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is it's really the constitution for the oceans, you start to interfere with all sorts of things, right from rights to navigation, fisheries, the maritime boundaries, you name it. I mean, it really goes to the very, very heart and soul and core, particularly of Pacific countries, which are incredibly dependent on the ocean.
Mr. Barron, in his letter, says after 16 years of engaging in good faith with the ISA, he is increasingly concerned mining regulations will not be adopted. He He also says there are existing claims, like their application to mine in the high seas outside the legal framework of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Within the ISA, both Tonga and Nauru had sponsored the metals company. Mr. Curry says the firm has now put the Pacific nations in the lurch.
I would have thought that both Tonga and Nauru authorities must be feeling very disturbed and very concerned by these developments, because for so long they have been put at odds with other Pacific countries which don't want to see seabed mining and been doing what the metals company wanted.
The US has not yet responded to the metals company's intention to apply for a mining license.
Tuvaluans on Wednesday celebrated the arrival of a new state-of-the-art passenger and cargo vessel called the Manusina. It was purchased with $30 million in grants from the Asian Development Bank and a Tuvalu government contribution of $3 million. Transport Minister Simon Kofe, who led the government delegation in Funafuti, says the vessel will be a lifeline for people in the outer islands. He was joined by Emma Veve, the Director General for the bank's Pacific operations. She spoke with Koroi Hawkins.
Well, it's really exciting, actually. It's the first ship that ADB has ever helped a country to purchase. So it's something different for us. And when it came across my desk a few years back, we were like, why are we helping buy a ship? Can't the country do that by themselves? And I discovered how difficult ship buying can be. And so it's great because obviously ship transport is quite critical in Tuvalu with so many islands and needs for people to travel for school, for health, to visit friends and family, as well as freight moving around. And so the ability to bring in a world-class shipbuilder like Honda Heavy Industries to work with the Tuvalu government and find out just what kind of ship they needed and tweak their usual designs to fit the situation in Tuvalu was a really great opportunity we couldn't pass up.
And tell us a bit more about that. What is the ship? What are the specs, and what are those unique specifications that you just mentioned?
Okay, so it needs to be a ship that can go in between islands, come in quite close to tie up offshore, anchor offshore, and then people come and go via smaller boats to the land. And so the smaller boats come as part of the sort of ship package, so people can transfer back and forth quite safely. So the ship has to be able to sort of manage that kind of operation, but then it also has to make international trips. It's come down over the last week or so from Japan here to Tuvalu, but in the course of its normal operations, it will also travel between Tuvalu and Fiji, perhaps to Kiribati. Government might want to charter it out to other Pacific governments who need the use of a vessel for short periods. So it needs to meet both those sort of requirements.
Ongoing maintenance, cost, running, all of that, is that picked up by Tuvalu government now?
It will after the sort of initial period, the sort of first set of insurance costs, registration, etc., come as part of the project. And after that, government will pick up those costs. The ship's a lot more fuel efficient than their old one, so hopefully some of the costs will go down. And otherwise, they're the normal costs of running a ship that government has been bearing with its existing ship that this one replaced.
You mentioned a bit the need there. What were the things that convinced you that this was something that would benefit like a lot of people in Tuvalu?
Well, just the fact that in Tuvalu, the bulk of the services are really only available on the main island of Funafuti. So for high school, kids need to leave home and go to another island to go to high school. The medical services need to travel around to deliver medical supplies. It's everything in life that people on the outer islands, they need the ships to come through to help them with it. So I think that was a sort of meeting the basic needs of the people on the outer islands is really the driving development need for this, and obviously the safety of people in traveling. You know, there's lots of really sad stories of shipping disasters across the Pacific. So to be able to have a new vessel up to international safety standards to help the people in Tuvalu is a really worthwhile effort.
I imagine there's a bit of pomp and ceremony around the arrival. What's the plan for today?
Yeah, so it's a sort of a half day of celebration. They were busy way into the late hours of last night setting up chairs, decorating the main wharf here in Funafuti. The ship hasn't come into the harbour yet. It's anchored offshore out of sight, and it's going to make a spectacular entrance, apparently with canoes, lots of dancing. People are all getting dressed up already for the day. And I expect pretty much most of the population in Funafuti to turn up and have a look.
You mentioned this is the first time the ADB has done something like this. Is it now a template for similar assistance to other low-lying atoll nations that we have quite a few of in the Pacific?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly it's something we can look at with governments if they see what's happened here in Tuvalu and are interested. Of course, we'd be happy to talk to them about helping them purchase ship. I expect the relationships built up with the ship broker, the shipping company will also be useful just generally for Pacific governments. They'll have some people to go to who know what they're doing. So I can see, yeah, there could potentially be more of this in the Pacific for ADB.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, soifua.